Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We've got an interesting video here for you today, a pretty cool little upgrade I think. So today we're going to be talking about replacing the storage compartment on the Cadillac XT5. This should also loosely apply to the XT6 as the actual compartment itself shares the part number, although the process of getting to it would probably be a little bit different. So why in the world would you want to replace this storage compartment? There's a couple of different reasons that I can see. Number one, there are some third-party products available that actually feature an integrated wireless charger, which is actually a much better location for the wireless charger than the one from the factory. So these are not GM products. These are coming out of China somewhere, and they're probably good products. I considered this for a while. But honestly, I wasn't too crazy about the look. It looked a little cheap in an otherwise nice dash. And, I'm just always a little wary of some of these aftermarket products like this. It's a lot of work to replace this, only to find out that the part only lasts for a few months. So I've seen one person out on a forum replace it. Haven't heard anything bad about it necessarily, but that might be one reason that you want to do it. So the other reason, and this is my reasoning, is to replace it with a newer version of the bin. And why in the world would you want to do that? Well, on the earlier model XT5s, this bin had this fuzzy material, which is fine, but it's not as premium looking as the rest of the dash. And also, in my case, this is kind of where I slide my phones into every day when I get into the car. And my whatever this fuzz is actually starting to wear off on mine. I noticed last year when I had a loaner, I think it was a 2020. I think that's the year they started doing this. I'm not 100% sure. But I noticed in this newer XT5 that I had while mine was being worked on, that they had changed the design, at least on some of the trims. I don't know if it's on all of the trim levels in the 2020 or just the higher end trim levels, hard to say. But that they had now started wrapping the interior of that compartment in the same leather and stitching that the rest of the dash is. So here's a quick look at that. So that's got a much more premium look and feel, and in my mind it seems like it'll hold up a lot better. Time will tell. So otherwise it's a similar looking part. This part actually shows that it came off of, I purchased this used on eBay. It shows that it came off an XT6 because in this case the XT5 and the XT6 do share this part. So don't be confused when you look it up yourself, and I'll include the part number in the video description. Not sure if it comes in more than one color. In my case, I was just researching the black. I don't know if on some trims if they've got this in a different color, but it took a little while to find the part number for this because it just started on the on the 2020 models, as far as I can tell. It took a little while for the part number to show up on the lists, and then it took me a little while longer to find actual pictures of one to confirm that it had this newer finish in it. So once most of the new ones that you see like on eBay and places like that, it's just a drawing of it, so you don't really know what it looks like. But I can confirm this part number, which is 8468170. That part number is a black stitched leather cubby instead of the fuzzy one. So this is going to require a little bit of a dash teardown to get to, and so let's talk a little bit more about that. And this video may be helpful for getting into other projects that involve pulling the dash apart. All right, so logically, when you look at this replacement piece, and of course we can see how it's laid out here, I mean, it appears we just have 4 bolts or some sort of fasteners here, and it appears that they line up here and here. And so initially when I looked at this, I thought, well, this is probably going to be a short, easy video, because probably you just pop off this piece of trim and bolt it in and you're done. But I'm going to give you guys a little tip here. It's always good before you start prying trim off and things to do a little research and try to find the pieces in question that you're going to be removing before you remove them. Try to find pictures of the back side of them because that gives you a lot of clues as to how it comes off. Now, how do you do that? The simplest way is to use one of the big parts websites. I'll use GM Parts Direct for an example, and look up the part number. So I looked up the part number for this part here and looked it up on eBay. And as you can see in the pictures on eBay, this piece here has fasteners that are actually somewhere up in here. So we're not going to be able to get this off without first being able to get up here. So then I went and found the part number for this piece, which is actually this right here, is all one piece. And so that gives us some clues. Looking at the back of that, we can see that it's mostly just clips. There's a couple right here on this edge, and they kind of go down, and you can see in the picture that I found on eBay where those clips are. So it's a little bit more involved than you would think, but it looks like it's going to be mostly clips, and it's not going to be too bad. And yeah, this piece right here, removing it, sounds and looks a little scary, but it shouldn't be too bad. So looking this over, what you want to avoid doing is using any type of metal to pry on things. Really, if you can use your hands, if you can get your hands, that's the very best option. They do make lots of plastic pry tools and things like that, but if you can do it without using any tools at all, that is the best option. So looking this over, to me, it looks like we do have a place to get our fingers here behind this edge near the passenger side vent. There are two clips right here, so it's probably going to be pretty hard to pull on. But let's start there and then work our way over. All right, so it seems like the two clips right here released, so there's going to be more. We're going to want to kind of try to be careful of this top piece here, so we're going to kind of want to work our way, I think from the bottom up. Let's just see how it goes. Okay. Feels like there's one in here somewhere. We don't want to pull and put stress right here. Thankfully, it's not clipped too badly. It looks like the button is coming off with this piece, so we may have a connector in here that we'll need to disconnect. There we go. Let's see. And so there is a connector here for the start-stop button. And there's a tab that we're just going to want to press up here on this top edge to release it. And so there's what that plug looks like for the start-stop button. A little hard to film in here and get good angles and work at the same time, but there's the tab right here that you press on to release this plug. And then you can kind of see what the back of that start-stop button looks like there. Okay, so we can now get a view of the dash without that piece of trim installed. And I'm going to guess that's arguably the scariest part of the job, especially on the upper trims with the suede. It's a very nice premium feeling piece and very visible. So, obviously it's something you want to be careful about. Hopefully that's the worst of it. Okay, it's hard to tell, but this piece here, the top of it is right about here. So there's a bolt here, and you can sort of see this bolt a little bit better over here. So we're going to have to do some level of tear down to get this piece here out of the way. and this piece here out of the way. Don't see, well, actually there is a bolt up here. So here on the driver's side, if you look closely, there is a bolt right here next to where the plug for the start-stop button comes out. So let's start with that. That appears to be attached to all of this here, and maybe it just pulls off from there. All right, so this is a 7mm bolt. So we'll just use a small socket to free that up. And cup holders are a wonderful thing for storing bolts as we tear this apart. All right, so I think that's all we need to get this little piece of trim off here. So I'm just gonna put one finger on here and try to ease this off. I haven't looked it up, but it's probably a couple more clips. And sure enough, that came off without too much fight, and we got about 3 clips along the back. And so now we can see one of these bolts up here along the top that releases this trim piece here. Okay, so similar to the driver's side, there's another bolt that's kind of tucked up behind this piece of trim here. And so I see a bolt here and here. Appears to be more 7mm bolts. So let's get this loose and see if this one just pops loose. I'm not really sure if it's just clips. It appears to be on pictures I found on eBay. But honestly, we might not have to pop it all the way loose. I'll move the camera over here on the passenger door. It looks like this little panel needs to come off. If you're familiar with my dash cam installation video, you know that this just pulls off. And it's a good thing we went ahead and looked, because there actually is another 7mm bolt back here. And we could probably, at this point, get to the screw we need, but in my experience, if it's possible, just go ahead and pull the piece of trim all the way off, so we don't put any stress on it or risk scratching or cracking something. So my guess is this is just going to come off now. Yep, and it comes off just like that. All right, so on the surface, it would appear that we now have access to what we need to remove this last piece of trim, hopefully. Let's find out. All right, so we've got a bolt here and a bolt here. Appears to be more 7mm. It looks like pretty much everything here on the dash is just these same 7mm bolts, which is nice. I mean, it looks like you could actually remove the entertainment center here pretty easily. Okay, let's see if this is what we need. So I think it's a clip here and a clip here and one in the center. Okay, so looks like the bolts for these side ones are a little bit hidden. That's unfortunate. You can almost see them, but I don't think we can get to them. So there is a 7mm bolt up here. Let's see if that gives us enough clearance without taking everything loose. You can see there's 2 7mm here, but there's one here, and I think that's all we need to get this loose. Here's a second 7mm for this side piece here. I know these two side pieces are snapped on and it's not too bad to get them off. Let me see if I can get this one off, and I've already got a video that shows how to pull this one off. It's the same thing, and I'll probably move the camera here in a minute and let you see that process a little bit better. But let's see if pulling this side one off lets this loosen up. So if I remember correctly, we're going to want to pull this piece from the bottom edge because there's tabs along this top that this slides down into the center console. So we kind of pull it out from the bottom and then lift up on it. All right, so yeah, you can see there's these 3 clips here, and there's these tabs at the top. We got to be careful not to break that clip into here and over here. And I'll try to get a better view when I do this side, if I need to do that side. So now that wiggles loose. And I really think that will actually give us enough play to get this guy out of here, this last bolt. Well, let's go ahead and back these ones out that we can see. And these continue to be 7mm bolts. Definitely don't have to pull the rest of this piece. Runs down across the whole footwell under the steering wheel. So I think we're going to try not to remove that. I definitely can get to the screw, and yeah, I think we'll be able to get that out of there. And you can see just how loose this has gotten. So we do have another bolt tucked away under this. So there's one here, and that's holding this piece here. And let's see if we're going to have to do a similar operation of removing this side panel, or if this will move at all. Don't know. Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to have to do the same thing on the other side. So close. So, yeah, let's go ahead and pull this off. I'll try to get you a better view of that now, and maybe that'll get us loosened up over here. That one came off a little easier, presumably because I've had it off. I can see that there's a clip right there. And that just released. So I think that's just barely going to get us where we need to be. Maybe not. There we go. So we talked earlier about pulling it all off the trim when possible, but I think this is one of those situations where it's just not going to really be worth the trouble of pulling this whole piece off. All right, so hopefully this just slides out now. Hey, look at that. So that is out. So, you know, fitment I think is going to be good. The one thing that's different, I mean, you can see where this is made out of 2 halves, and presumably that's where they had a way to wrap the leather a little easier. The only thing that I'm seeing that could be an issue, and it shouldn't be the end of the world, would be these little clips, extra clips here. I'm not sure what they clip to on the newer models or XT6 or whatever. We need to make sure you can see this cup holder slotting mechanism here. I want to make sure it clears that. If not, we may have to modify this, which shouldn't be huge. And another thing to point out here, if you are doing the wireless charger thing, you have pretty good access now. And if you'll follow my directions in the video for installing the dash camera, that tells you how to get to the power, which is what they want you to plug into, the power for the DC jack in the center console here. So I'll link that video, check it out. So let's kind of do a dry run here. The little problem I'm having is this little wire here. It's wanting to hang on that. So it looks like this top lip here is a little wider than the original. Push this wire up in the middle there, which may have been where it was to begin with, who knows. There we go. Okay, I was beginning to wonder there if they, it's hard to imagine that they would have changed something enough to where that wouldn't fit in there, but it's definitely a little bit more finagling. That seems to clear those. Yeah, it's got room to clear those little clips under here, so I'm not having a problem with the operation of that door. So that's what I was checking for there, to make sure that those clips that were sticking out the bottom weren't catching. The only other thing I see, there's a lip here on the bottom edge that's not on this one. So I'm not sure if that's going to present a problem or not. So let's go ahead and put these 4 bolts that hold the new one in. And let's hope that we didn't go all this way for nothing and find out there's something else that's not going to fit. And like I said, it's definitely a little trickier to get it in there than the other one it is to get the other one out. So they changed it a little bit, but it does not appear that they changed it enough to make it impossible. All right, one more in this corner. This is the trickier one for sure. All right, so I'm just gonna work on getting these snapped back in so I can at least dry fit this piece here, and then I'll worry about the rest. And something else I'll point out is both of these sides, there's a little right below the screw hole. It's gonna be really hard to get this on camera, but right below the screw hole for these sides, there's a little pin that you've got to line back up. So we've got that one, and then we've got the one up here. All right, I think that's enough where I can put this piece in and make sure we're good there before we go too much further with this. Hard to imagine they would have changed it drastically, but all right, so there's this little lip right here, and that's got to kind of rotate into the trim piece below it. That was just throwing me off. Hey, well, that looks good. All right. I like it already. So from here on out, this should really be the reverse of what I've just shown you. I don't think we have really any more gotchas. All right, so I'm gonna get these pieces, these side pieces back on since they're such a pain, and then we'll get the rest of it put back together. Alrighty guys, that about does it for this video. That went pretty well. I mean, a little more involved than I expected when I first set out to buy this part, but not too bad, and learned some things along the way. Well, that does it for today's video. I hope this helps somebody out, and I hope you guys will consider subscribing to the channel. Until next time, we'll see you then.